Hello and thanks for joining me in this course. I've made this course specifically to help myself. If I had this course when I originally started, this would have been actually gold dust. So what you're going to get from me today is a quick overcap of what this course is intended to do, and also ideas about how to best store your ideas. So how this will work is I will actually go through all the top tips that I use in regards to getting my business idea or new brand idea down. So something that I always use, which I think you should consider as well, either get a mobile phone with the notes app, or even better, do what I do, get a piece of paper, sit down somewhere relaxing, get a pen and a marker, and we're going to work through an idea. What you won't know is everybody has a hidden business idea inside their brain that they just don't know yet. So what you might actually think is not a great idea would potentially be a great idea. So what I'm going to do is speak about branding overall. We're going to cover ideas. So what is a good idea? I'm going to do a proper in-depth review of this. It will be step by step, so I won't miss anything. I'm going to give you a live view as I speak, and you can actually see what I'm thinking, and we can translate that for you so you can actually get your idea out there. And then once you've got your idea out of your brain, you can decide what you want to do with that and which direction you want to do with it. But I will be supporting you along the way. We're giving you tips, ideas, and there'll be further branding episodes as well. So I'll be actually breaking this out into a few sections for you. If you get your branding and idea right originally when it starts, then moving forward, everything else will fall into place. The most important thing for me is we need to find the idea that you're passionate about. So you don't want to force an idea that you think would do well. You're better off picking a topic like I did. Who am I? Well, I'm an Amazon Live creator. I live stream on Amazon Live. I'm also approved as a live streamer on LinkedIn. I'm a Google expert photographer for local guides. I do a lot of branding ideas. I make a lot of channels. All of these channels are ideas that I like and I'm passionate about. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to transfer some of my skills to you. I want you to be passionate about your idea. So make sure to continue with the course and you'll find some amazing tips that I will share with you. I've done it for a number of years, so I'm sure we will be able to go through this journey together, and I want to get an idea as well as get you an idea that we're both going to be passionate about, and let's step forward. So how do I create a business idea or a brand from scratch? We're going to do this step by step, so you'll actually see my thinking and we'll work through this together. What I want you to do is I want you to think like I'm thinking. So the questions I'm going to ask you in your brain, answer those questions. Ideally you're using a mobile phone for note, or you have a paper or pad, jot down some notes, because when you look back at these, it makes a lot more sense once you write them down. We all think we've got a good memory and we remember these, but it'll be interesting how many we're going to get through. So I already do a number of these sessions in ideas and branding. So this is the first slate. We're starting from scratch. Let's think about this. So let's think, do I have an idea? If you already have an idea, jot it down. So I already make content around photography, gear, and live streaming, because I do a lot of live streaming online for video content creators. So we'll put that aside. That's not an idea. I already do that. What else would be a good option for me? Well, the way you want to think about ideas is, number one, think about your day. So let's look at this. Let me put this down on paper. So let's go day. Your day. What do you do in your day? Well, go through this with me. I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking, checking emails, checking Instagram, checking Twitter, the usual stuff. What do you find interesting on social media that you follow? So, okay, I like stocks and shares. I do updates and stocks plus shares. So that's kind of the morning routine. My handwriting is not great, so apologies. Next up, what do? Take the dog out for a walk. Before I do anything, go straight down, get ready, obviously, take the dog out. So we've got dog, walk. And then what do? We have a little walk in the park, a little bit of catch with the ball. What do we do next? Come home, have breakfast, and then start looking at alternative business options. So because I already have a business, I start looking at that. We're going to avoid that. We're going to keep this generic. So if you're thinking along these lines, you should already be in a morning routine. So that's my morning routine. Maybe you get up and you don't check emails. Maybe you start doing something else. Consider what that is in your mind. Even if it's trivial, if you're spending time on it, write it down. So there I've already got 2 ideas without actually even thinking about it. So technically I have enough knowledge about stocks and shares to be able to speak about investing opportunities. What am I investing in at the moment? How is it doing for me? Am I getting an income from that? Am I getting interest? Am I getting a good return? Okay, possibly. That's something to think about. So possibly I should be doing a channel where I talk about my stocks and shares. I could do it. Technically, I've got the ability to be able to talk about it. Now, the question here is, a lot of people will ask themselves, actually, I'm not an expert in this. But you don't need to be an expert. As long as you know a bit more than someone who wants to learn from you, you're a good person to learn from. I wouldn't want to go to someone who's mastered stocks and shares, who's a financial accountant, for this information. They'll be too far ahead from me. So I would like to learn from someone who's only a couple of steps ahead of me, which is a good way. So that gives me an idea. Stocks and shares possibility. I walk my dog. I'm passionate about dogs. I like different breeds of dogs. I like looking after my dog, grooming, pet care, all the little things that come alongside that. So possibly we could even do a pet channel. You know, there's 2 little ideas there that just was sprung to me. And this is actually just as is. So you're seeing this as I'm coming up with it. Okay, so we'll stick with those 2 ideas. So that's the idea segment that we've done. Next up, we need to put these into some sort of flow. So the next section we're going to look at what or where to take your idea. Welcome back. So now we've got a few ideas. I've got 2 there. I could go down and come up with more. Let's put that in the ideas box there. So in the top corner we have ideas. Next, where to take your idea. Now this is where it gets interesting. So we can move this over to the next section of where do we take it. So we briefly discussed a couple of options there for me: stocks and shares and dog walking. They're trivial things, but when you think about them and you break them down, they could actually be whole brands around these. So for example, I could do a Zulf Talks Financials and talk about stocks and shares, savings, credit cards. I have enough knowledge about that. I've worked in finance company for a number of years, so I do have a background in that as well. So I'm kind of not cheating, but I'm using my experience to make additional content that people might struggle with. So where would I take that idea? Well, stocks and shares is one element of finances. How about people struggling with money? They're not too sure how to look after their credit cards, their savings. That's a potential way of taking this. So I could do a financial channel. YouTube would be an option. I could do a blog. I could do a podcast. 3 options already that we're thinking about. So let's do, hopefully you can see this. Blog, podcast. Remember, we're idea generating at the moment. So we don't need to think about how will it happen. We're going to think of what can happen. And then we'll think and break these down into how can we do them, which is a separate segment. You don't have to worry about that yet. We're going to stay focused. So blog, podcast, we'll put YT for YouTube. So that's where we've got the idea. And now the platform or how we're going to share it is where? There. So interesting now. We've come to a point where we've got a couple of ideas that can be transferable to my dog channel, pet channel. It can be transferable to my stocks and shares, savings, money, financials. All of that is relevant. So where to take your idea? There. However, how would that work? If I had an idea and I looked at stocks and shares, would I be happy? Good question to ask yourself. Right now, you need to ask yourself, if you've come up with a couple of ideas based on the previous segment, are you interested enough about the idea you've come up with to be able to talk about it passionately twice a week? We're starting low, twice a week, an hour, twice a week for an hour. So that's 2 hours worth of talking. Yes, I could talk about my dog. I could film my dog easily for 5 hours a week. So that's a good option for me. So let's put times to it. So dog walking, where we're going to share it, and we're kind of touching on how as well. So we do 5 hours for my dog. Stocks and shares, would I? Well, this is where you'll question yourself. You need to be quite disciplined in the sense that if you don't like it, strike it off. You don't need to think, okay, I've got the idea, I can't get rid of it. So right now, based on those 2 ideas I came up with, stocks and shares, because I do it already as part of a financial company, I'm already spending some time at work doing that. So would I be energized enough? I think I would, but not as much as my dog walking or my dog channel, pet channel. So let's put that at 2 hours. Yeah, kind of I could do that. With the passion, it depends. If I'm helping someone save money, then yes. So maybe we can look at a different angle. So that stocks and shares idea initially, after thinking about it for a few minutes and writing down some notes, I might make that into a banking. So we can change our idea. It's our idea. So banking, because what we've done is we've moved from that category into a wider category. So banking is a good option, and banking and savings. So we're pivoting our idea before we even created the brand, which is good because we're focusing and niching down on a specific area. So good. Banking and savings, 2 hours, 5 hours. Would I be with dog pet channel? I could, but what would I think of making? So let's think of a few ideas. In this example, you need to consider what you came up with and think of a few branches. So for example, if I liked, what would be a good option? If I liked sewing is an option where I sew. What do I sew? Maybe I like sewing garments. Maybe I like sewing hats or gloves. Along those lines, kind of narrowing it down. So these are things that will be more interesting to you and what you've come up with. So I'm helping you along the process of the visual element. So let's carry on. Banking, savings, dogs. I will say my dog sheds a lot. Sheds twice a year. So grooming is something I keep an eye on. So grooming, that gives me a whole host of things there to talk about. Hygiene, pet care, fur care, the right food to make sure his fur is healthy. So see, I've already expanded into quite a few categories there, which actually give me ideas for content. So we're talking about ideas and branding, but we already have taken a few more steps that will make our life easier. And we're making sure the most important bit, the idea is a solid idea that we can continue making. We don't want to think of an idea where we've got a couple of things that we could do, but then we come to a plateau moment where we run out of ideas. So we're already preempting that, yeah, okay, there's enough scope there for this idea to become a healthy channel, blog, podcast for people with like-minded questions. So I have questions about saving accounts. Example, what is the best savings account if I have children and I want to put money in there to earn some money back on the interest? Good question. I could answer that question. If somebody else had that question, they will find my video podcast blog by searching on internet and they'll come across that. So the more people that helped by your content, that works well. There will be niches where this doesn't apply, but you need to think of an idea and keep your mind open in scenarios where how would people find you? So that's a good element of your brand and your idea as well. So right now, that was a quick review of where and touching on how as well and some timings. So next section we're going to look at is the content you can make. So we touched briefly on it here, but the next one we're going to look at it in more detail. So now we're looking at more deep diving into content. We are keeping our goal overall within the brand and idea. However, we have already touched on some content that we're looking to make. We've looked at where, because we have a blog, podcast, and YouTube. Now, banking, savings, and grooming based on 2 categories. Let's narrow it down. Let's go to one of those ideas. We don't want to overthink on one idea. So out of those, which ones would I be more interested in? Banking and saving. So I will pick that. And now, what are the potential contents that I can make? So if I'm looking at a blog, Could I write an article about banking and saving? That would be interesting. Yes. So I could write a blog about the best saving accounts at the moment. I could write a blog about how to save money on credit card bills. I could write an article about which bank are you with? What are the best banks to be with? Do you have a business bank account? So already there's content there that I've got thoughts about, which are quite flowy at the moment, but we could make them into articles. So yes, we can make that into a blog post as well as a podcast. I could technically speak about those items in a podcast. So this is further down the line. We're going to pick one of these to take forward. So keep that in mind. YouTube channel? Yes, I could. So right now, out of those, in terms of the content you can make, YouTube stands out at me, but it will need some work to make a video. Do I have the gear? That is something we will cover later on as well, about gear and getting the right equipment to be able to share your idea in the best way. So for now, I have the gear, so that's fine. But let's go down the route that you don't have video cameras. Most people have mobile phones, so technically you can still make content, which we will touch on. Okay, so let's stick to podcast or blog posts. Let's try blog posts. So I would say for a blog post, we are making an idea. So now I know it's a blog. Now, the branding element of it will be a nice area to touch. When you're looking at branding, this is where we want to keep it relevant to what you want, relevant to what you can share. So, next section is actually now touching on branding. So you'll notice we've done a number of sections there around the topic, and now we look at, wait a minute, what are some brand ideas? So let's check that out next. Yep, so we have made it. This section is going to be about branding. We've already done a little bit of research, some overall ideas. So if we're sticking to blog posts about banking and savings, what do we need to think about? Well, we need to think about a few things. Firstly, what would be a good blog name? What would be a good podcast name? What would be a good YouTube name for banking and saving? Well, now this is where you get a bit interesting. You're going to write down a few ideas about what you think. Just list them down. Don't think too hard about this. List them, and then if it comes to a certain point where you think you're not coming up with new ideas, you can always hire someone to make you a nice name. There's loads of options out there for branding, so don't worry too much. But for now, we're going to get a name so we've got something to work with. So if I'm talking about banking, let's do bank. We'll do words, bank. We'll do what? Saving, save. We'll do money. We'll do finance. We'll do Ali, my surname. We'll do advice, which is not really, but I'll put it down. I'm not thinking advice, or I'll put Mr. V out of that. Care, trust, Zulf. I'm just writing down words here, so we're not doing anything fancy. This will help a lot. Just think about what your idea is and think of keywords. Interest, earn, dividends. What else we got? There are a few words there. So now, if it comes to an idea, if you're going to hire someone, these are words you can give that person you're hiring, and it'll make their life a lot easier to make branding for you. So don't be afraid to ask other people to help you. And the same situation, if you're part of a group or a family, you can ask your family members to come up with ideas for you as well to help you with this list. So now we've already got a few words there. Now, which ones stick out with me? Finance sticks out. So finance, Ali, my surname, Ali Finance, Ali Finance, money, save, interest, bank, Zulf, bank, Zulf Bank. That sounds a bit. Zulf Bank option, it's there. Trust, earn, interest, trust Zulf. See, already there. That's not a bad trust Zulf. It gives a intended. I've got Zulf talks, so it could be along those lines. Trust Zulf, as in money, finances, trusting someone with the ability to give you information about that. So that's a good option. So let's stick with that for now. So that is not the best. The next thing we will do is check if it's available. Check name, which we can do right now. So next we're going to check if our idea is feasible and if we can A, get the brand name, B, get a domain name. So we'll have a quick look at that now, just to give you a holistic view of the idea process that I go through. Literally, that was not too intensive. We spent about half an hour so far. So let's check the next option, checking your name. The names, we've come up with the ideas. We've covered a few subjects here. So summarize, what we're doing now is we're checking the brand name that we've decided to see if it's feasible. Because at this point, we're in the early stages. So first thing we're going to do is go over to a domain provider. So we're thinking about Trust Zulf. Trust Zulf. Let's search that and see what comes up. Ideally, we want the .com. TrustZulf.com available. Perfect. So that's one option. So we're kind of doing the research element of this. Next, let's go to name check. These are resources available online. And let's put Trust Zulf to see if the social medias are available. The .com is available, domains wise. Let's scroll down a bit. Twitter is taken, probably because let me check that. Trust Zulf. Okay, this doesn't exist. So sometimes it will tell you it's taken, but it's actually not taken. So you want to check that. Facebook, YouTube, everywhere is available. So that would be a great option. So look at that. Just as we've been doing this course, I have been live demonstrating an idea. And Trust Zulf, I like the sound of that. We've got Zulf Bank, Ali Finance. It's basically your surname and a word. We don't want to get too technical with this. If you pay someone, you can have a play on words. You can have more intense meanings to them. But for this early stage, we want to basically not deter you from your idea. So after this session, what you will be able to do is use the brand name, set up a blog. WordPress would be a good option to start with. Blogger could be a good option. And we want to get you starting writing articles. You may be new to this, so get nice and comfortable with the first step. And then what we'll do is look at additional options as well. So where are we now? We've done the website domain name. We've done the basic searches to see what is available. And we're quite happy that Trust Zulf would be a good option. So let's just write that down. Oh, I just messed that up, didn't I? Let's try that again. Trust Zulf. Yeah, that's Trust Zulf. Zulf Trust, either way, good option. So that would be something I would use as the name to start off with. Once I make blog articles, because they would be easier to write if you're good at writing. If you're good at videos, make a YouTube channel with content around the blog articles. So that is a nice option and a round off there. So what is your idea? What do you think of that so far? Along the way, we have had a few options to come up with a number of ideas. We've done it on one sheet of paper, and it's giving you the idea of coming up with an idea that one, you will enjoy writing about, making content about, and two, that you're passionate about. If you're passionate about it, people watching you will automatically like and share what you're passionate about. If you're writing about something you're not passionate about, people will be able to tell. It's that easy. I have got a few more of these coming where I'm actually going to show you how you can make your own artwork and banners, which are going to be essential for your site. That would be quite amazing. Having your own brand name that you've come up with yourself, and then making your own branding to go alongside that. How amazing is that going to be? So there's a few things that we need to keep in mind when we're looking at the branding element of this. What you will need to consider is, what is your customer base? So if we're looking at the example that we're suggesting on our setup here, the banking Trust Zulf option, for example, what will be the customer's portrayal of that? That is going to be very important. So your branding needs to give off the right signals. If you're going to be talking about finances, saving, banking, like in my example, it's going to be very important to understand what your customer is going to expect from you. So if you're setting up a brand and a name, something to consider is, what type of content are you going to be making? If it's going to be educational content, there needs to be an element of loyalty, an element of trust, element of real information. If you're doing a blog type situation, then it's going to be more your opinion. So all these little things need to be considered, especially if you're going to be making a brand that needs to portray a certain value. So try and come up with a few values for your brand. So let's quickly briefly look at brands and values. So let's see how that would work for us. In this example, if I'm doing Zulf and Trusts, or trust Zulf, the brand name. We already know we're talking about savings, so this needs to be a few values. We've got trust, so we're going to obviously make one value as trust. So values are very important for branding and your personal identity to make sure we know what you need to deliver. So we want to deliver trust, we want to deliver while we're teaching, so we want to deliver value, we want to deliver savings. These are bullet points at the moment. We can bulk these out into actual sentences to bring back real value. So we want to be trusted, we want to bring value, we want to bring savings, and we want to educate our customer base to basically make the best of their life. If there's situations where we can help them, then we need to make sure we're making the most of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4 options there for values. So that's the Zulf trusts. How about if we were looking at the option we originally looked at? So for the dog channel, for example, the pet channel we'll call it, what would be values there? Well, again, we need to have an element of integrity, so honesty, so giving an honest opinion of what you're sharing. So for example, if it's going to help your pet, if you've got a dog, it's going to help the dog's livelihood, health. So maybe another option would be honest. What would be a good one for that? Medical improvements. I'm just putting down keywords here to give you an idea of what I'm thinking about, because these will help you a lot when it comes to the branding element. We talked about this, where we can actually get additional branding set up. So these keywords will help get the right portrayal. So honest, dog channel, medical improvements, health, which also ties into that, medical improvements, health, and well-being, thinking about sharing. So sharing information. But in terms of value, what do we want to give the customer? So if I was watching that channel, what do I need to see? I need to see a dog. I need to see a person looking after the dog and explaining to me how they do that. So education again, educational, or maybe sometimes just a blog type situation, like a day of how do you look after your dog in a typical day. So that would be an element of storytelling. So here we're actually breaking this out into a bit more than just your branding. We're looking at values, we're looking at how do people feel when they watch your content, what kind of standards are you setting. Are you having just mobile phone footage? Are you going to be getting videos that are recorded in a higher value, 1080p, 4K, for example? Little things like the quality of the video, the images, what type of photos will you have. So all these little things are worth jotting down because they'll be essential when it comes to setting it up. So there we talked about the values. We'll call this values. And we looked at 2 channels there. Let's think about another option, because a lot of people are deciding to do vlogging content or gaming content. How about if you had a gaming channel? So what would be a good gaming name? That's a nice idea. Let's think of a gaming name idea. So, okay, if I was thinking of a gaming channel, I would say along the lines of, depending on the games you play. So let's say if there's a element of older games, so not the new games, so maybe vintage games or retro games. So let's try retro. That's an idea. So retro, vintage games, board games possibly, and then Retro Alley. There, my surname, Retro Alley, done. Okay, there's your name for you. So if I was making a gaming channel, I would call it Retro Alley, and that's my channel, and that would give me a wide scope. So I've got retro gaming, retro clothes, retro trainers. It could be a number of things, so there's a wide option there. Retro Alley, and then have a tagline for it. So gaming everywhere. So maybe have a mobile device where I'm retro gaming in an alleyway. Kind of keep those ideas fluid and let yourself see what happens there. So in that example, I would want the values to be enjoyable. So I want people watching it to enjoy themselves. I want enjoyable, so fun, I want technology. I'll put tech. I want good latest technology. I don't want to be playing on like things that aren't relevant to retro, which would make sense, I think. I'd want it to be relatable, so people watching aren't confused, so they're kind of relating to what I'm doing. So there's a few little ideas there. At the same time, as part of the branding option, all three of these examples that I've shown you here, we want to have our target audience in mind. So who are we aiming this at? So when I'm saying Zulf Trust banking, I'm actually aiming that at people that would be having bank accounts. So they won't be younger people. It'll be in the region of mid 20s to 30s possibly, because that would be a key age requirement for when you're getting credit cards, banking, mortgages, etc. So that's like a demographic. Gives you an idea of the type of people you're talking to. So when you're making videos or you're making content, it's relatable to those people. So that's giving you an idea of the demographic, which is part of the branding and essential requirements for your marketing basically. So I think that would be something that would be helpful. Also, the main thing here to remember with branding and marketing, you want to be careful not to be too robotic, not to be too scripted. Try and make your content in the way that you would deliver it. So if I was to meet you and you were talking about your brand, would you be the same as if I was reading your article or listening to your podcast or your YouTube channel? That is your main goal. You want to come across genuine, you want to show yourself and speak passionately, which is what touches back to our original point when we were considering the branding and setting up the name, what we're going to be talking about, the subject. We actually made sure it was something we were interested in and it was something we're passionate about. So all these little things help you build your brand, keep your personality in there, make it fluid, try and be natural as you would be speaking to someone. And all these little things will make your brand appear and be genuine. So if someone is at the end of that camera, or someone is behind that screen looking at your video or reading your blog post or listening to your podcast, all these people are real people. And if you're going to show your passion, they will be interested. If they're watching your video, they're going to be already interested in that subject. You just need to sell it to them to make sure that you've got a genuine feel for what you're talking about and make it fun. That's the main thing. A lot of these things, the more you do it, the better you get at it. So if in doubt, come up with an idea, make some content for it, and then make another content idea. If you've got 3 ideas, try all 3. This is going to be down to your time management and how you spend your time. Are you going to be sitting there watching Netflix or watching some films, or are you going to dedicate some of those hours to yourself and improve yourself? If you're watching this learning video already, you're in the right track. So I'm hoping you're going to be spending some time on yourself